Doc.
Marty, I gave you explicit instructions not to come here, but to go directly back to 1985.
I know, Doc, but I had to come.
But it's good to see you, Marty. Marty, you're gonna have to do something about those clothes. You walk around town dressed like that, you're liable to get shot.
Or hanged.
What idiot dressed you in that outfit?
You did.
Do you expect me to talk?
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night. Hello and welcome to episode 99 of Do Space Talk. I'm your host Becca and as always joined by the illustrious Dave and Chris. How are you guys doing?
Illustrious?
Illustrious.
We're decorated.
Decorated with all those war medals.
I was just looking around if I've got any paint on me or something. I don't know.
Then you'd be illustrated.
For services to paintball.
Oh God. You're walking around with a limp.
I'm sure I didn't go out drinking this weekend. I'm sure I didn't get plastered at all. Thank you. I'm here all week.
Yay.
I'm pretty sure listeners go.
Oh bloody hell! Get on with it. Anyway, we are coming to the end, or we are reaching the end of our Back to the Future retrospective series.
Pardon, we're reaching what?
We're climaxing.
Climax.
We're reaching the end of.
Is it the end? You do.
And whose end are we reaching exactly?
Well, not mine. That's
I'm pushing my groin out a bit. Neither of you taking a hit.
Well, from where I'm sitting, I can't reach either of your ends, so. Unless I'm like.
She's disappointed by that. She met me last week. She was a total gentleman, as women go.
It was very lovely to meet Dave. Unless. Oh no, I was going to make a reference, but obviously date, but never mind. Anyway, we are reviewing Back to the Future Part 3.
I think you're in there, Dave.
Way the lads. She bought me a Diet Coke last week. I should have taken that for what it was. A play for my penis.
Everyone knows when a girl buys you a Diet Coke.
You're in there.
Hey. Dave, the cheap Dave
if it's regular Coke, then forget it. It's nothing.
You know what it's like. You have a Diet Coke, read the shooting script for On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then up the apples and pears.
What if she buys you Pepsi Max? What does that mean?
I suspect anal.
Yeah, it's kind of the dirty one, isn't it?
So no, it was just the front bottom.
Now I feel bad for not sitting next to you in the cinema. I had to go and sit further along the road because I couldn't see.
Couldn't see. Someone sat in front.
Someone tall sat in front of me.
Becca's 3'6", and she sat in the back row. So
I still couldn't see.
So she couldn't see, so she had to move.
And then Terry Martin was like, "Where's Rebecca A?" So I had to stick my hands up and go, "I'm here at the back." I hope that doesn't make it to the JBR interview. That was very embarrassing.
I hope it does. So what are we watching tonight, Becca?
Tonight we are watching Back to the Future Part 3, starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Mary Steenburgen, Thomas F. Wilson, Elizabeth Shue, score by Alan Silvestri, not Robert Silvestri, the bizarre love child that I made up last week, script by Bob Gale, directed by Robert Zemeckis, and released in 1990. Oh my lord.
I remember seeing this in the cinema, and I know my only memory of it was I saw it at the cinema. I was like,
what?
The weird thing is, I remember being so excited.
Can you explain?
I remember being really, really excited to go and see it. Like, oh my god, kind of one of those big event things. Oh my god, Back to the Future in a Western. It just looked so good. And I remember going to see it, and that's all I remember. I remember sitting in the cinema watching Back to the Future Part 3, and that's it. Don't ask me how or why, but obviously it didn't leave that much of a lasting impact.
No, I didn't see this at the cinema. I think I must have caught this on DVD on one of its anniversary releases. I just remember thinking, oh, it's the Western, or, it's like the West one in the trilogy sort of thing. It didn't leave that much of a great impression upon me. I think I remember playing a video game of some sort somewhere along the line, and was always stuck on the level where you had to race against, you had the horse and the train racing against each other.
Oh, so that's it then.
Yeah, basically towards the end, and I always died on that level. I could never get any further. Bit rubbish at video games, but I like to try. But yeah, so again, watching it tonight, it's kind of like, yeah, it's okay. It has good bits and bad bits. So
I slightly tuned out because when you said you died at that bit, I was like, shit, that was a hardcore 4D experience in your
No, yeah. I can't even remember. It might have been on
the seats. Literally dropped it off of a cliff face. Yeah,
literally. I can't even remember which system. It might have been on like Mega Drive. I'm gonna have to look it up. As I say, it didn't leave that much of a good impression on me, unfortunately. Yeah, so kind of rewatching, I've kind of reassessed it a little bit, and I would rank them in the order they were released, 1, 2, and 3. But it's good fun. The Western setting is good fun. Also uses Monument Valley to great effect. Fun fact coming up about that later on, and obviously Universal, Warner also known like for its Western, so the Western set is quite interesting to go around if you ever go to Universal Studios. And it was fun to see the classic courthouse setting transported back to Wild West America, which is pretty cool. Alright, Dave, what's your history with this film?
Don't think I knew, like I think I was saying last week when we talk about the lack of internet back then. It's not really in our day. It's almost kind of just, isn't it interesting how so different some things are? I had no idea there was a Back to the Future 3 when I went in to see Back to the Future 2. And I do remember when I was sat outside, because I think it must be a public transport thing, but I got to the cinema for Back to the Future 2 quite a time before the showing, because I remember being sat out in the doorway for a while with like a couple of other young lads that were like similar ages to me and my cousin who were there. And they were showing me this book, and it was like a promotional magazine for the film, basically. I was trying to think, was it a book or something special? It was definitely like a special publication about the film, and it was talking about Vista Glide and everything like that. No reference to Back to the Future 3. I'm just thinking, like, now you couldn't even begin to do that. It must be a bit of a mixed bag for like marketing people at studios now, that you can get the message out there so much quicker now. You know, if you need to get the world knowing about something, publicize it in the right place, drop it on YouTube at the right time, and everyone knows. That wasn't the case here, but the one thing that they must have had as a trade-off that they must have quite liked is control of the message. That they didn't want us to know about Back to the Future 3 until we saw the trailer at the end of the film. And my God, they managed it. Now, I'm not saying nobody knew, but most of us turning up just didn't. My history with it was in terms of watching it is I've always been really underwhelmed by it, because I think it's a film that really doesn't need to exist, because I think all it's a sign of is that they tried to do too much with the second one. So whilst I understand people looking at this film and saying, well, the second one was too stuffed and what a lovely return to a sort of more sensible pace this one is, the only reason it's a return to a sensible pace is they couldn't have crammed any more into the second film if they tried. You know, and I just think the very fact that this film's main story seems to be the Doc love story before he lost her to Ted Danson. I don't know if he got.
He probably fell off his chair.
I don't know if Ted Danson fell off his chair. We were so stunned when he managed to bag her.
It was love at first chair fall.
Yeah, I really don't know. I like the Doc character. I've always liked the Doc character. He's not like, and bear with me here because you won't understand what I'm getting at to start with. He's not like Stifler in American Pie. In that you watch Stifler in the first American Pie and you go, what a funny character, I'd like to see more of him. And in the second one, they stick him in every scene and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. and it is that concept of like, leave them wanting more, that what you think will be good for you doesn't actually work when you get it sometimes. Now, that isn't the case with Doc. I was pleased to have more of him in this film. But at the same time, the very fact that it was a love story based around him just felt like, should we just do something else then? We're stretching it out now. You know, these films were never about Doc. They were never meant to be about Doc. And whilst I'm delighted to see him left happy, Mary Steenburgen is a very interesting actress in a lot of ways because she's kind of a bit timeless. Because you see Mary Steenburgen now, and she's in her 60s, I think, late 60s, I think, because I think she was, and she looks really young for that age. And yet, when she was in
doesn't
this,
look that much different, really.
No,
No,
but that's the point.
Aged that much.
When she was in this, she was about 36, and I couldn't believe she was 36 because she looks like 48. And it's not that she was looking really decrepit or anything. It was just she never had a youthful air about her and still doesn't. But yeah, she hasn't aged. But the film just doesn't really matter to me at all. I just think that they stretched out this little sort of denouement to part 2, and it's become a whole film, and I'm not really sure why. There are things about it I kind of like. I prefer Buford to Griff. I mean, my goodness, the idea of Buford in an era where they did all kill each other makes a lot more sense than this guy with bizarre implants.
Oh, what? Mad Dog.
Mad Dog Buford.
Yeah, Mad Dog Buford. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I would prefer
better than Griff.
Buford to
And it's
Griff.
different
Griff
as
is a bit
well.
random.
I mean, although they look exactly the same, different voice, different accent, everything. Griff was just
Too
Crazy.
much.
turned up a bit.
Yeah.
That's one of the things.
11.
That's one of the things
Yeah,
I thought. I thought, is it Thomas F. Wilson?
That's the guy who plays Biff in
Yeah.
Buford.
I thought he was generally really good in this. I mean, I thought what I really liked is that it didn't go over the top with it wasn't just it's Biff with a
Western accent.
as a cowboy. He actually played it as if he's an actual outlaw. I mean, yes, there are some certain things that are similar, but I think that more comes across in the situations of the thing. They like to sort of replay the same things happening again and again. You get the same scenarios, same setups. But him as a character, while it is your generic outlaw kind of guy, you could probably fit him and fit that performance in another Western, and you'd be fine. It wouldn't be he's just playing Biff.
Well, it's not as cartoonish.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about the film overall, in fact, I do know about the film overall, and it's a tiny bit dialed down from the second one. I think it shares the same problem. It's a bit cartoonish still. It's still very, very primary colour palette in a way the first one wasn't. And it just feels unnecessary. I mean, it is necessary. I don't think you can leave it the way Back to the Future 2 ended. But the very fact Back to the Future 2 ended where it was just a sign of massive overambition in that film. And so I've never loved this. And, I look back at the reviews of the time. I didn't see that many, but I think it's probably still common to the reviews you would see now. The second one was, God bless you for trying, but this is ridiculous. And the second one is, what a return to form of the first one. And I've never really felt that way. I'm with Becca. I think they declined in a straight line, frankly. I think the first one is an absolute classic. The second one is extremely flawed, but God bless its ambition. And the third one is just, are we done yet? And that's my first thoughts, really.
I think I understand both sides. I could happily go with someone who said this is clearly the better film because it's not as stuffed and its heart's more in touch with the original and it's just a nicer watch, so to speak. So I can kind of go with people who prefer part 3, but I can also go with the argument of part 2. As you said, it's yes, it crams a lot of in, but it's got a lot more ideas, and at least it tries something new and all this. So I can kind of go. I'm kind of either or with it to extent. I think there's a nice sweetness to it. It doesn't obviously goes without saying doesn't touch the first one.
I mean, I almost don't mean to interrupt because I did my opening thoughts, but just to clarify a point a little bit more. Back to the Future 2 is an awful lot more flawed, but it's more ambitious. That film swings for the fences and misses. This film doesn't really try in quite the same way. So the part of me that loves people to have a go and fuck it up 40% of the time. So like, or even 60% of the time, so that 40% of the time has a chance to be something really special. Responds to Back to the Future 2 a lot more.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think there's a nice sort of sweetness in the love story, even though it is, well, let's just give Doc something to do, which was nice because he got nothing to do last time around. I mean, we genuinely wondered what he was actually doing this whole time. So this time it was just like, I mean, the way I see him, and
you would be gutted, wouldn't you, Chris? You would be gutted, right? That like you've spent 9 months somewhere with no distractions and no one to bother you, and you finally meet a hot bit of stuff a couple of days before you die, and you're thinking, I could have been bashing away for 8 months here.
Yeah, but I do like the predicament of it all. It is kind of like also the whole skeptical, like, oh, love at first sight, as if, and it's kind of well, lo and behold, it does happen without even trying, and also the idea of like, crap, she was actually meant to die, and when I say, this kind of like emotional kind of, oh, what have I done, and also how could I not? There is stuff of that's kind of interesting with the Doc. The way I see it, at least with Part 3 and Part 2, I mean, Back to the Future is a masterpiece cinema film. Part 2 and Part 3 are kind of like add-on episodes. They almost feel like TV episodes, not in the visual look, but
like Splash 2, where like this time Marty's being played by Amy Yazbek.
no, but it's like in in the fact that just how the story, the story just feels like, and now in another episode of Back to the Future, Marty actually goes to the future, and another episode, Marty actually goes back to where he went before, and now they're in the Old West. It feels kind of very much like This Week in Back to the Future kind of thing, rather than an actual cohesive story. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I enjoyed it. Obviously, it's not a patch on the first one, and I kind of feel similar to Part 2, but obviously for different reasons. So I'm kind of the same with Part 2. My feelings are kind of like, it's kind of better, but it's also, it kind of plays it safe, if you know what I mean. It doesn't really, it doesn't try enough. It just kind of it kind of just goes with emotions. But but there you are. That's my opinion on Part 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't really add more. Really, I enjoyed it. I don't know. It's difficult for me. I mean, the first one is an absolute masterpiece. The best film ever made. I think one of the most popular movies, perennially popular films ever made.
Obviously, if you ignore what women want.
Exactly. And Citizen Kane and
Mel Gibson shaving his legs. There's nothing in the film like that.
Oh dear, I don't think you could screen that film today. Everybody would be up in arms about it. For the second film, I think
manipulating women to sleep with them. I couldn't see an issue.
What's wrong with that? I don't know about that one.
Cool. Sorry.
Obviously, there are monumental problems with that, but we won't discuss that here. Yeah, as I said, the second film, it was very ambitious. It tried to cram a lot in to a short space of time, and is very, very flawed, unfortunately. I must confess, on this time round, I enjoyed it more. I didn't think it was as much of a slog. I think maybe it's because I happened to see the Searchers recently on the big screen, and so I kind of had a bit of renewed appreciation. Because eventually on the series we will get to all the westerns, maybe selected westerns. But for me, despite my American Studies degree, it's a genre that I've neglected, sadly. So I had a bit of a better time with this film. But again, it's pretty much kind of more, very much Doc heavy. But it's interesting that we do have a storyline that's primarily focused on him. Sorry for the I'm just trying to think of what to say. But no, I think I kind of...
Oh, God, I wouldn't worry.
Thank you. I still think I would kind of rank them. Not that this film is terrible by any means.
It's just kind of it's all right. It's fine.
It's okay. I've had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Western setting. But I would agree that Thomas F. Wilson, I would say, is the biggest revelation this time round. I enjoyed him as Buford more than I did as well. I think Biff is like one of the greatest screen antagonists. But I think Biff and Griff is just dialed up to 11 stupid. I don't really get what that character's about. So, but
when
yeah,
did
Buford
you
is
become the competent type?
Oh dear, it was so quotable. But yeah, so in terms of Buford, it's like you could actually imagine him as a Wild West outlaw. The character of like Buford Tannon could have been lifted from the pages of Wild West lore, such as the world that they paint so vividly. But yeah, I would still just in terms of it's kind of a little bit like really, so I would still kind of rank it last. But hey ho, that's my opening thoughts.
And they've been opened.
And they probably won't sound the same as my closing thoughts.
Yeah. Her gaping thoughts.
Gaping? Gaping brain. And my gaping mouth.
Becca, that's just rude. I'm shocked
Should
to the
have kept her
balls.
mouth shut.
Becca, we're a clean show. We don't tolerate this kind of smut.
Oh, sorry.
We don't.
I hadn't noticed that.
I was hoping you keep talking cleanly because I was watching a Somewhere in Time trailer on with my mic off, so I'll just like keep going, folks. I'm doing it.
Got the elephants on in the background, so we're all concentrating here. But we're hoping to do Somewhere in Time very soon. Somewhere in Time, so because of the lovely John Barry score. Oh,
that's the main thing. I just love it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
With a capital L. Anyway, should we discuss this film in a sequential fashion?
Yes, let's. We start with the end of Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, it's kind of like previously on
It's
Back
like
to the Future.
Rocky, to be honest.
It is literally previously in the last film. Here's what happened.
It's just like episode catch up.
Yeah, it is. It's totally what it is. We just catch up on where we've just been with the last one. Ends up with him going, Doc passing out. We see that, don't we?
Yeah.
So the credit sequence for the film is them doing a sort of time lapse on his mansion. That
I didn't realise his house was that big.
It is in the first one.
massive.
That's what I was saying, and that's what I was saying about did he burn it down for the insurance money? Because he doesn't live in that in the third one.
Yeah.
No, it looks completely different.
First one, sorry. So, yeah, that's the right way around. In 1985, he doesn't live in that. So he's living there, but he's passed out. So that's what the sort of run into the film is. He ran back for some help and Doc passed out. So we're just getting credits while Doc sort of sleeps and is ready to come round.
Yeah, and it's like obviously pissing down rain, and he's there with the hoverboard with his feet up, and just basically sort of like get Marty to explain the plot basically again, and he wakes up and he thinks it's a dream, and sees Marty and he panics again, and then he tries to explain the fact no you're in the Old West now. And shows him the car. So essentially, this should be all wrapped up now because obviously, Doc's just said, "I'm in the Old West. I'm kind of happy. Don't come back for me. I'm happy where I am. You just get yourself back to the 80s. The time machine's waiting for you."
And he should do as he's told. I think the only reason he doesn't is the whole shot in the back thing. But that's complete happenstance as well. So yeah, it does feel a bit less dry, although it follows on quite nicely from 2. And in retrospect, although it's a retrofit, that follows on quite well from the first one. It is Let's Dream Up Another Adventure.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of imagine, like, for those who watched Back to the Future Part 2, then after the ending, thinking that like to be concluded, you think like, hang on, did Doc just leave the DeLorean somewhere and he can just jump back in? But it just seemed obvious. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's like the world of the world. Do I go and save Doc? It's not much for a future if he gets shot in the back. But it's just like, yeah, just let's just get him there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there just feels less energy around this film. The start of Back to the Future 2 was kind of exciting. So all of this from first going off, it just isn't that exciting to me. I think I said last week that I'd end up saying that 3 was a better film that I liked less. I'm not even sure I think it's a better film. I think they both got different flaws. I think the first of the sequels, so the second one, tries to do far too much. The third one is just so what. And even the start of the film and getting him back into the past is just so what. The most interesting thing about him going back into the past, just to skip forward very slightly, is when Buford goes to hang him. Months later, when Michael J. Fox woke up one morning and couldn't stop his fingers shaking, he thought it was the trauma from that stunt going slightly wrong, because he nearly hanged himself doing that stunt, and he damaged some neck ligaments. So what turned out to be Parkinson's disease, he thought was an ongoing trauma from that accident.
Yeah, because he very nearly he was like unconscious for a few seconds or something.
Yeah, he was quite badly hurt in that stunt.
Yeah, stunt gone wrong.
But yeah, I mean, some of it, even the bits that are meant to be humorous, it's almost like on paper I can see that they are, but they're not.
No, I mean, there are a couple of sight gags which I thought were quite funny, but the rest kind of really fell flat a little bit.
I'll be interested to know which bits you mean, Becca, because the bit I mean is the putting him in the cowboy outfit.
Yeah, that's one of them.
There's no way a mid-50s doc would think that looks accurate. It looks like a fancy dress outfit.
It does, because you've got the little bottoms on the lapels, haven't you? It's like, what?
I know it's pre the spaghetti westerns, so they probably weren't quite as real, quote-unquote, looking. But you can tell immediately that doesn't look right.
I just read it as like, well, that's the best they could do at the time. That's the closest thing you can do, so...
Yeah, there are a couple of elements taken out from... I was going to say a different name, but Clint Eastwood's costume in the Spaghetti Western series.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think that was available at the time. Maybe.
No, because I mean, if you're talking about Clint Eastwood and Spaghetti Westerns, you're out by about 13 years.
Exactly.
I mean, I think A Fistful of Dollars was 66 or 67, so 11 or 12 years certainly. So it's not that, and I'm aware that like the 50s westerns weren't quite the same beast, but yeah, I've dreaded this review slightly. We'll get through the show, we'll get through the film, we'll have some laughs and all the rest of it. But I've struggled with the idea conceptually of what I'd say about this film, because nearly everything that happens in it, I'm like, so what?
Okay.
I'm not that interested. All of his going back to the past. I mean, they try and make some drama out of that, and him driving towards, he's on like an outdoor cinema, and all the rest of it. We're skipping on a bit there. Actually, we find out first that there's a grave that was Doc's.
Yeah, they stumble upon Doc's gravestone, and it's like, oh shit, that's basically where they find out that he gets killed, so that's where they make the decision to
It's
go
very
back.
Fortunate graves back then had so much detail on how you died.
Yeah.
Shot in the back over the matter of $80, buried
Wasn't
by
that in the
beloved
news,
Clara.
in like the in the news item as well? Like he's reading a newspaper and he's like, oh, that's next Monday, and it's like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's quite interesting how how you had that detail.
Shot
wouldn't
at
have that
11
today.
whilst balls deep in Clara. We were getting quite a bit of detail on this.
Quite graphic.
It's all set up, really, isn't it?
It is, but it's not as organic, is it?
No.
Set off from very little payback.
No, it's not. But it's. I think by this time it is what it is. It is what it is. So yeah, they basically just go back to the future like no problem, because they still got the. The idea of like having the power to go to the future is all sorted with the new charger thing, which basically just like you put food
It's
in
diffusion.
it.
Yeah, it's no big deal. I mean, it's just he should have just gone back to the future. It's just very, very lucky that he happens to stand right on his gravestone. Yeah, which is right by where it was buried. It's like, yeah, they're creaking along at this point. They're struggling to like get it to work. But okay, he wants to go back to the past to stop him being shot by Buford Tannen, who's been nicely trailed in the second film.
Mm.
He's the Biff of the era, but a lot more dangerous because it was an era where seemingly murder wasn't quite as big a deal.
No, he's very deadly in this film, and I think I'd much rather be more scared of crossing Buford than I would Biff. I mean, Biff's a horrendous bully.
Biff's a bully.
And it's like just the worst thing ever. But then Buford, you think he's going to shit you up, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm more comfortable with like introducing us to Buford, who's a killer, than trying to make Biff a killer.
Mm.
Yeah, because you understand it back in that time. You know, there was many people who would like that.
That's it, innit?
So someone like that would probably be like always challenging people to shootouts, and people just be like, oh fucking hell, you know, I just don't fancy getting shot.
That'd be the grand order of the day, you know.
Yeah. But you know, there are little touches there, like he is still a bit of an idiot, you know, with like not sort of thinking about what they say no. What?
No. That's quite funny.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like part of him being, I don't know if part of him being thick or just the film just not really thinking it through, but him openly sort of saying, "Oh, aren't we robbing that thing?" It's like, well, yeah, just tell everyone, you know. That's just, what, we're going to commit a crime? Aren't we just, on the sheriff just going to like sort of pounce on us, just like knowing exactly what we're doing?
Yeah,
makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, where we were. So Marty essentially goes back in time. Is it 1885?
He goes back to 1885, where accents are massively different, and it seems to be geographically somewhere very different indeed. But okay.
I mean, he literally runs into a horde of Indians after being promised there'll be no Indians there.
Yes, because you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. Which is, again, a bit of setup for the end of the film. It's not like these writers have suddenly lost their talent. I mean, they totally know how to set things up and pay them off. Yeah. But again, it's a studio throwing money at you and saying, make another one up. And that's okay if you started off by just, like, making them up. Whereas Back to the Future was something more of a passion project. So, yeah, it's not amazing. But he knocks himself out, running away from the Indians.
And the cavalry.
And the cavalry, and also the fuel line is shot, so he can't just like start the car again. So that's handy. And we encounter one of the worst accents I've ever heard on film.
Well, I think they're both. I think they're both pretty ropey.
I'm thinking of Michael J. Fox, but like Maggie McFly's no better.
Yeah, they're both pretty shoddy.
I was reading about how they were accent coaches on set and they worked really hard, and I'm thinking, well,
we thinking of Far and Away.
But, you know.
Yeah. Far and Away was a Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise film from about 1992 where they couldn't do Irish accents either.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, you should.
Whenever I think of the touchstone for bad accents for me tends to be Ewan McGregor. See, he's okay at Obi-Wan because that's less doing an accent and more doing an impression of somebody else.
Yeah.
But you watch him in most films. Sometimes he'll try and be like Cockney or American. I've heard him play Irish.
His American accent's quite good, though, I think.
It's fucking rubbish, Becca.
It's okay. It's possible.
But then I've dated him. I was about to say I've dated Americans.
You dated him, have you?
That makes me sound like a right man about town. I've dated an American. And I've known quite a lot of Americans.
I was engaged to an American at one point.
And he's dating Ewan McGregor.
Hang on a bit. Chris, shut up. Becca was about to give us some detail. She doesn't talk about herself very much. You were engaged to an American?
I was.
Were you? Had you met him?
Yes.
This wasn't just, her pen pal thing. Really?
No, I studied abroad and bumped into a chap there. And we did it for a little bit.
I studied abroad myself. Well, several broads, actually.
But
hey.
gotta cram them in.
Where do you study?
In Wisconsin, at Eau Claire.
Pants.
It's actually very good. It's meant to be one of the top universities in the country. I don't know if that was the case about a decade ago.
Why do I not know this about you, Becca? Okay. What were you studying?
I didn't know she went over there as part of a degree. I did know that, actually.
Yeah, it was...
But I didn't realise she was all over there menfolk.
Well, just the one, actually.
He must have been knackered if he weren't spreading it around and stuff.
It was a bit like American Pie,
Did he love your accent? Did he go, oh, hey?
Did he love your pie?
I mean, literally, it was literally like, "Oh, I love your accent." It's like, oh Christ, really? So
No,
yeah,
they do. It's bizarre.
They do. They
I
love
went
it.
over there about 3 years ago, Oklahoma, right? And I am not a good-looking man. I don't mean to do myself down, but I'm not particularly
Oh
right.
yeah.
I'm overweight. Thank you very much. My eyes are tremendously soulful, I'll admit. But I'm overweight and balding and all of those sorts of things, right? And I went into everywhere I went, anywhere that wasn't touristy. They hang on your every word. And there was one place I went, I think it was a bar, and we ate at this bar. Now, the first thought when this was going on was, it must be tips. It must be that they want tips. But then I was looking around, and she wasn't treating anyone else the same way. And I didn't look any richer than anyone else.
Literally, because you're British or English and you have the accent.
This was 2015. I was 38. She was on a break from university, right? Now, she was selling alcohol, so she must have been 21.
Wasn't Hooters, was it?
But I was sat there with my then girlfriend, right? And I'm hurtling towards middle age, and as I say, not a fantastically good-looking bloke, I wouldn't say. And she's
So
there,
sexual.
21 years of age, and I swear, she giggled at everything I said and was continually sort of touching her hair and at everything I said. And she walked away at one point, and I just remember saying to the person I was with, "Fucking hell, that's a bit over the top, isn't it?" And it's purely the accent. But the problem is, right, it goes to your head. The first day you're like, it's not me, it's the accent, right? And you just like, you're quite humble about it. By day 3, you're wandering in places going, aren't I fucking sexy, right?
Hello.
and then I go on like a weekend trip to like New Orleans, which was
God.
great. I really love New Orleans, right? But the problem was New Orleans is much, much more touristy. So they're much more used to people like me.
Yeah,
So
whereas
I
in Oklahoma,
walk
probably
into
wouldn't
a bar there, tried to put on my best sort of, deep Fraser Crane inspired, soulful voice. And no one cared. I was so
No.
disappointed. I lost my erection immediately.
Well, that's just it. I mean, like, to start like thinking like your ego's a bigger. I think part of that is like you are aware that that's going to be shit when you go back home. So so partly, I'm going to make the most of it while I can.
Well, we do our Christmas commentary next week, right? And I have a lot of sympathy and empathy for that sexy on the wrong continent story.
Yeah.
6 on the wrong continent.
Because honestly, right, I went over there and like everyone, right, she would introduce me to people she worked with, and I mean straight males, right?
This is my British boyfriend.
I'd walk away to get in my car or something, or her car, and she'd come and join me because maybe she had to say goodbye or swap some work with them or something. She'd get in the car and she'll say, "Do you know what he just said?" And I'd go, "What?" And she'd say, "Hey, that Dave's a charming dude." Right?
Charming
and
dude.
I got that everywhere I went.
Oh,
Everyone was like,
that's
he's
lovely.
charming, he's great, he's funny, right? And then you go anywhere that's either British or very touristy. And I'm not, I promise. It turns out I'm not as charming as I thought I was.
No, you're very charming. No, I found the same as well. Obviously, got like Wisconsin Declare. They do have a lot of
Same thing.
English British students as well from all over the globe. Whilst we were there was a lone student from Australia. He'd come a very long way from home to do a stint there.
From Australia, in fact.
All that way. But yeah, going to more touristy places, like we went to like Chicago for a while, went to New York for a while, did a couple of trips. Even somewhere like the Mall of America, where like everybody from across the whole United States goes there. And so you come from somewhere that's kind of a bit more out of the tourist destination, and then somewhere that's more on the tourist trail. And they're like, "Oh, so where in England are you from?" And yeah, you're suddenly not that amazing. It's like, oh, and then you come back
Unless
home.
you're down,
it's like,
if you went there first. You'd
oh
be
yeah,
all right.
definitely.
But you go the place where you're like, everyone hangs on you everywhere. The other thing is, while I was there a couple of nights later in the very same bar, we played like Cards Against Humanity, right? And it's the only time I've ever played that game. And I've never one-sidedly routed a group of people at anything as I did at this game. And it's because, like, to them, the British are hilarious, right? So everything I chose was like the funniest thing
Really
in the
funny,
world to
yeah.
these people. Now, I know I do vaguely comedic podcasts, but I'm not a comedian, but you'd think I fucking well was over there. It's kind of funny.
Sometimes it can be like the way you pronounce things. Like
I think you'll find that's bollocks.
But it's quite funny because we're getting out to read like English words that they don't have. Like obviously pants, it means like over here it just means like pants, underwear, whereas in America it can mean trousers, and then they have just pants, which is hilarious. And words like ladies' underwear, like knickers, they found hilarious. So we're like, knickers, because they don't pronounce it like that.
That's the only thing, right?
I thought it was fantastic.
I don't mean to get too lewd here, but obviously I've been intimate with a lady.
Babe, you can never be too lewd.
No, I've been intimate with a lady over there, right? I did very well. You'll be proud of me. I represented the country well.
I should hope so.
Yeah. Right?
I do well hope so.
Did you say before doing it, you go like, this is for England?
I think I'm going to do for my country.
Keeping the British end up.
I do wish there'd been an occasion to say that when I was flying home. Like, but Dave, I need you.
So is England.
Right? But,
oh my god.
you go to do like a bit of like, not dirty talk necessarily, but you go to like talk and then you stop yourself because you think, if I say knickers now, will she fall about laughing? Because I don't know if that's a word here or not.
Yeah, you do have to be careful. I mean, sometimes there was because I had a little job working the front desk at my halls of residence, and there are some words I'm like, what does that mean? Like people come and say, oh, can I have this or can I have that? And I'd be like, sorry, another student's got it. I just didn't know what it was.
Because Chris or I could have told you what this and that means. They're quite common words.
Well, no, obviously not common words, but words. I can't actually remember what it was, but it was like some cooking utensil that had a different name. No, it wasn't spatula. It was something quite. I don't know what it was.
A spork.
I'd be no good. A spork. We got sporks here.
Yeah, we have sporks over here, but do you have norks?
But the thing is, I was going to say, they're also knives and forks, so why not norks? Right? Anyway.
They had norks. I don't think that's not a good idea because like you're eating the food and then surely it would shave the inside of your cheek.
You do forget what's important though when you're dealing with their language. Because I remember watching. I think it was Age of Ultron where Tony Stark made a crack about the Hulk and fucking Black Widow and how they were playing hide the zucchini. And instead of laughing at that joke, I just felt the need to go, I think you'll find it's courgette.
I think you'll find it's called courgette. Thank you very much. Or eggplant. But again, that's not what we call it. But yeah, there's the whole kind of, tomato sort of thing. And so, yeah, when we, went to go and order a sub or something like that, we said, can we have tomato? Because they didn't, when we said tomato, they were like, what? I was like, oh, so frustrating. But no, I do think it's very interesting, even though, we're two countries separated by a common language.
We have nothing in common. That's the point. Because we got the same language. People talk about the special relationship, but we have so much more in common with like a France or Germany. We just do.
Well,
They're totally different.
Sure.
So yeah, well, I mean, he goes straight back to the past. He's on the McFly farm, and the accents are awful.
Off the record.
I just suddenly remembered we started this from talking about far and away. We just went on. So yeah. Christ. I mean, look, I think we talked about this for like every person in the Fly family now has to look like Michael J. Fox. I thought when I saw this, like on this food, wouldn't it just be a really nice opportunity just to show like little, what's the I'd say respect, but maybe audiences wouldn't notice at the time. But if this was oh fucking hell! I forgot his name now.
Crispin Glover?
No. The original Marty.
Oh, what, Eric Stoltz?
Yeah, if you got Eric Stoltz,
that would make more sense from the fact that he's a redhead and it's an Irish background.
But it just as a touch of like, yeah, you know what? Sorry,
and I would back Eric Stoltz to be able to do a better accent than Michael J. Fox managed.
Because it's just like, well, not everyone has to look like fucking Marty, and you kind of go, yeah, well, he's kind of similar enough, and it'd be a nice sort of nod to like, of like, okay, sorry you didn't, but at least have this role, and at least you are part of the mythology, and it's something that fans can look back over years. I think that would have been a really nice touch. I think it's a shame didn't take that opportunity, but there you go. Because obviously Crispin Glover wasn't going to come back because what happened. But
again,
it becomes about him at the end of the show.
But it becomes an in joke, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what's your in joke there? He was the guy that we fired. or he wasn't good enough, or
Well,
whatever.
I think so.
I don't think Eric Stoltz would want anything to do with it.
Maybe. It was just like a nice idea for, that'd be kind of cool, but no. And we don't get to see Michael J. Fox do an Irish accent with a ropey beard. Good,
No.
It's funny because
how about your hat?
just thinking about recastings. I was watching. We were talking about the Somewhere in Time score before we went on air. Christopher Plummer's in that film, and I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be a bit meta if that was like Kevin Spacey now? Just reverse engineer it the other way. So yeah, their running jokes appear to be the water. The water is filthy.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that gag.
The chicken is full of pellets from where they shot it. He meets the first book boy born in America, who he'd seen in the book later, William, who, funnily enough, looks like Michael J. Fox.
Bizarre.
I'm tired of this series by this point. I just think, like, that wasn't funny in the second film. It's really not funny here.
You get the repeat of the gag of, like, it waking up to his mum.
Almost like you. Yeah.
It's all kind of repeating the same stuff. I mean, yeah.
They're out of ideas. They really are, aren't they?
Well, I can kind of go with it if they're saying, like, yeah, but history repeats itself. So it's, but I can kind of go with that one as well. It's just like, okay, think of something new. You can't just, like, keep going with the same old things over again, even if you are hanging on to that idea of Marty keep going into these situations and the same stuff keeps happening to some degree, you know.
There's no variation. It's the same film, rinse and repeat.
Yeah. No, Biff at some point will, you know...
They'll have a chase around the town.
Yeah.
Where he'll sort of get away by the skin of his teeth. And so on.
And Biff will land in a manure and something and such, so... So, yes. So he goes into town, finds out, goes into... We'll basically get, like, the diner scene, but in a saloon bar. Yeah, Biff thinks it's his relative at first.
Yeah.
And then he makes the mistake of calling him Mad Dog, which obviously he doesn't like being called Mad Dog.
Which he's got off the video.
Yeah.
So it's a very innocent mistake, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't... I mean, even if you just heard of it, you wouldn't necessarily know you wouldn't like it. You'd be like, oh, right, sorry, I didn't know, I didn't realise. And then he does the moonwalk. Yeah, I can hear you're thrilled by this.
I'm not thrilled by any of this. I was always bored all the way along because I can't even figure out the method by which he ended up moonwalking. It's just odd.
That was a bit strange.
He shoots at him, asking him to dance, so he does the moonwalk.
Yeah, it's not the sort of dancing I'd do if someone was firing with feet. But it's effectively just leading us straight to a reprise where it's leading us to two things. It's a way to get Doc's attention so he can meet Doc, but it's also this film's rhyming with the first two where he's chased by the Tannon around the square. Yeah.
And then he gets saved by Doc, who can't say that again. And we meet Doc, who, Lord and behold, is an excellent crack shot. He can shoot a fucking rope.
Who knew that?
It's a gadget, though, isn't it? It's a gadget. He's got
a scope.
Yeah, he's got a scope on it.
Yeah, but still, like you know, scopes give you aim, but you wouldn't necessarily still hit it because a gun's an actual gun. It'll knock as soon as you hit the trigger. But maybe I'm thinking too technically about these sort of things.
Yeah, you probably are. The whole point, the film is telling us Doc can hit it from that distance because he's an inventor. The film's telling us it's the gun.
Yeah,
it's the gun. It's his skill, but
because
it's the gun
science.
He's invented. But yeah, the aforementioned stuff where Michael J. Fox was nearly hanged. But it just gets him back to Doc. Doc, he has to explain to Doc why he's there. And there is mention of Clara, and at this point, Doc doesn't know Clara, even though he's like three. I think he died on something like September the 5th and went back on the 1st, or something like that. He's about 4 days from death and still hasn't met her.
No.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because doesn't it say like his love or something?
Yeah.
But okay, so But maybe that's just how they read it in the old West. You know, as soon as they meet someone, it's like, yeah, that's the love of his life.
Yeah.
Yes, because she wants red Jules Verne. That's what gets my blood pumping.
Very sexy, you know. So much so that he names his boys Jules and Vern.
Yeah, let's not talk about Jules and Verne later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Marty explains himself, and he's like, "Okay, well, if I'm going to die, well, I might as well get back to you. Where's the time machine? Well, it's the petrol tank's kind of fucked. Ah, so they try to do it by horses. Then they try to put alcohol, which kind of blows the engine, and then they come up with the idea of horse and car, don't they? No, not horse and car. Sorry, get the idea of like doing it by train.
The fact I said yes to horse and cart and it wasn't remotely horse and cart suggests you could have said like, you know, vibrator, and I'd have gone, yeah, whatever.
So yeah, I'm literally going by memory here now because I watched it yesterday. And that's where they meet Clara.
Yeah. Now there's a ravine called Clayton Ravine.
Yeah.
In the 1900s, in the 1980s. Now, it's a story. Again, it's another retcon just for this. Well, not a retcon because we've had no information on this before, but it's a new piece of information for this film. Clayton Ravine was named after a school teacher who went off that ravine in 1885. So it turns out that saving her stops that being Clayton Ravine because it was named after her. It was originally like an Indian name or a Native American name. It was Shonash Ravine, I think.
Yeah.
So okay, so wouldn't I? So this is why I get confused with the time. Like, so if that was always meant to happen, then why? So Clayton Ravine wouldn't exist then if she was the love of Doc's life then, because they would have met there. Oh, actually, no. They were going to meet another time, but Doc called it off. Is that right? I'm overthinking this now, aren't I?
No, I can't remember is the truth.
Okay. I think they were scheduled.
I think he was meant to meet her at the station or something.
Yeah, and he decides, well, no, because I'm not going to risk it. No.
That's right, and then he ends up saving her from the ravine.
Yeah.
So it may well have been she'd gone off there a few days later or something. Bear in mind, it was called Clayton Ravine before Doc ever went back there. Marty, Doc only went back to 1885. We haven't done enough of this fucking like screwing ourselves up over the timeline during this series, folks. So I'm sorry, listeners. But yeah, it was called Clayton Ravine from the 1800s. You would have thought, or soon after, whenever they gave it a name or decided to name it after this teacher. But Marty knows it from his lifetime. So the 70s and 80s is when he learned about it, and he says all the school teachers told you about it and all the rest of it.
Yeah. From
Doc going back there, he's in 1955 the whole time, and it's only really a night. Doc goes back there basically one night, November 12th, 1955. He goes back to 1885, and Marty follows him back in the morning. So there hasn't been enough time to find out what it's called. So Doc going back there hasn't necessarily stopped it being renamed. He may have saved Clara, and it might well have been, had Marty gone straight back to 1985 instead of back to save Doc, he would have found that it was called Shonash Ravine, because Doc will have saved Clara.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his existence in 1885 stopped it being called that. Marty's existence in the past has obviously stopped it, leads to it being called something else.
Okay. Which is still, I suppose, by the end of the film, it could technically be called that, because you'd assume that everyone assumes that she died from the train, so hence it still would have been.
That's a bit weird, isn't it?
Called Clay. But I don't know if that's, that's assuming something. But also one of the things I thought about, and I'm going to go back on this, when Marty's explaining things to Doc, wouldn't Doc remember because he did it? Because bear in mind this is in Doc's future, not in terms of time, but in terms of his personal time journey. It was his past who sent him there, so he would go like, "Oh shit, yeah, I remember that."
Yeah, well, you got the sort of wave effect of things taking time.
Okay.
Bear in mind, Doc goes back there. He is the extrapolation of a future from a Doc that didn't send Marty back. Marty was sent back afterwards. I know in time he's younger, but it's an extrapolation of Marty finding out that Doc has gone back in time.
No, it's all very confusing.
I just think if I say it kind of quickly, it'll sound all right.
Yeah.
It'll sound like, no, he's going at it with gusto. I think he knows what he's trying to say.
Fair enough. So they say, Clara, they pretty much fall in love.
I suggest, Austin, you pay no attention to this. And that goes for you, listeners.
Yeah, so they say, Clara, they fall in love pretty much straight away.
What, Marty and Doc?
Yes. No.
That wasn't expected, was it?
No.
Yeah, there's a reason why they haven't done Back to the Future 4 yet. So yeah, they Doc falls for Clara, and I mean, I think they're kind of a cute couple in a kind of sweet way. They kind of work. I think Christopher Lloyd is actually really good here in the film, generally. But
what I like about Christopher Lloyd in this is it's almost like Doc hasn't just loved or lost or got to the age and had failed relationships. He tells me he's never been in love before. This is really new to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's, they sort of sense like the puppy dog kind of mentality as well, and also you kind of get a sense that it's new to her to some degree. Like she's never found someone that's really she's never really been interested in. She's probably had offers, but never really kind of connected with. Obviously, never where Jules Verne.
Clearly not. No.
No, I like the fact Chris is saying she's probably had offers. Chris has an idea in his head how that went.
Would you like to elaborate?
No.
Can I see your ravine?
Quite literally.
No. Where do we go from here? 'Cause my memory is just going now. Is it all just Clara stuff now?
Well, at this point, I tend to go and make a cup of tea.
Is it? They go to that dance thing. She turns up at the Doc's workshop.
Yeah, they do. Yes, she turns up to fix her telescope.
Yes, and
That's not euphemism. I don't know what is.
But by now they've agreed they can get back. They've worked out they get to the Back to the Future by train with a bit of help from technology, but they won't be able to do it till Monday. They've got to go the weekend because I think it's Thursday at this point. They go to. So he says it wouldn't hurt to go to this dance.
Yeah.
But obviously, when they go to that dance, Buford believes he's owed $80 by Doc to do with the way he shoed a horse or something. And he threatens to shoot him at this. But there's lots of... I mean, setup and payoff is not as smooth here. It's still there. You go, well, that sets up that point. But they make it very, very obvious that it could be 3 or 4 days that he takes to die. In other words, we know he doesn't die till the Monday, but he could still be shot here. So it's the film trying to add some tension in. Not entirely successfully. And we've got frisbee jokes and shooting jokes and ZZ Top.
Yeah, who knew ZZ Top were actually that old?
And the guy from the railroad in what's the film? Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles. Yeah, that guy. I recognise ZZ Top, and then I recognise him.
Get no kick from champagne.
No, that was
Voice of an angel, guys.
I like the frisbee thing as well because that was actually the origins of frisbee. That was a frisbee company, and it was something to do with like their pie dishes being thrown around on like Ivy League college campuses, and obviously that led to the invention of the frisbee as we know it today.
But again, it's the film going, well, he invented rock and roll, so maybe he involves frisbeeing as well.
this is it. You're kind of following the similar sort of beats to the first film.
The thing is, right, sequels aren't inherently bad. We've had some wonderful sequels over the last few years. So
Name them.
Even if I go, what do you mean name them? There's fucking so many.
I know, I'm joking. I'm just giving
But I mean, off the top of my head, Winter Soldier's probably the best Marvel film, and it isn't the first in any one of that series. It's not.
No, I
the first
was only
Marvel
joking.
film. It's not the first Captain America film. It's not the first film with Black Widow in it. Whichever way you want to look at that film, it's not its first. So it's not that it is a sequel, but I think it's. You could look at the first one where he says, "Marty, we got to do something about your kids, right?" But I think you could look at that and go, "Well, of course, there's a sequel in that." But now I look at it, I think, well, most of the films that have got sequels that either beat or join the original in quality were set up to be franchises anyway, or they were very easy to franchise. Back to the Future was a singular thing, like And It's a Wonderful Life. To suddenly come up with a sequel, even from the same people and the same, actors, creatives, and everything else. The sequels tell me there was never designed to be a sequel.
Yeah. Because the first one was that perfect. I mean, if they would have put some thought in it, or at least...
There's nothing about all that stuff in the first film that you go, well, this is going to be their formula.
Well,
it doesn't feel like formula.
I think the best thing, if you were going to do a sequel, you wouldn't just pick up from the first film. You would just assume that's already happened and pick up on a completely different story. Later. Yeah, you just do a completely different story, and then you can work out a film that would probably work and be better.
This time, Doc is knobbing the Matahari. I haven't thought that through.
No. Yeah, so Biff, comes in, tries to be a jerk, tries to sort of steal a dance of Clara, or is acting a little bit rapey, a little bit. And,
very
and
rapey.
then tries to shoot Doc, then Marty comes in with a frisbee, saves him, and then he ends up getting in arranging a draw with Mad Dog. And yeah, so basically now we have that deadline thing where he has to meet Biff for a draw, which he's hoping to get out of. Meaning he'll be already out of town by then.
Yeah, it's 8:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the chicken thing again, although in this film it's yellow, which is basically a reference to the colour of chicken shit, I think. I think that's what yellow is. So it's the same sort of thing. And it's just well, this was stupid in the second one, it's really fucking stupid here. But they were shot at the same time, and that's the problem, that back-to-back can work, but the one thing with back-to-back, obviously, is you've got no time for course correction. It's like when you get yearly sort of video game franchises. They're already making the next year one by the time they release the current year one. And it's the same here, that I think that certainly if this had been made now, and let's say you had the internet, you'd let's say 12 months. I think feedback from the second one, they'd have dropped the whole chicken thing.
Yeah, it depends on what the feedback was at the time. I mean, maybe fans weren't that negative about it, or specifically about the chicken bit. They might have just been distracted by other stuff.
Yeah, that was a little bit too much information there. It was
Well, we found out over time that the second one doesn't have a wonderful reputation.
No.
No, I mean, let me just look I'll look up Bob Zemeckis, actually, that's probably the easiest. I'll look him up on Rotten Tomatoes and see what the scores for these three films are. Now, of course, they're going to be from a much smaller sample because of when it was. But hopefully we'll get some sort of feel for how popular or how well regarded the sequels were. Let me just have a look a second. Okay, so Back to the Future, not brilliant. Back to the Future's got 96%, which You just think, who gave that a negative review? I just think, what were they looking for? Were they complaining they didn't get oral sex while they watched it? I mean, how much better could this... Yeah, Sheila Benson of the LA Times said it's big, cartoonish and empty with an interesting premise that is underdeveloped and overproduced. That's about the first one. Yeah, okay, fair enough. So that's that one. The second one has 63%. The third one has 74%. So the two sequels aren't wildly well regarded, particularly when you think the first one is such a classic. 63 is like, it is like Spectre versus Casino Royale in quality.
Yeah.
My main problem with the third one is that I'm just kind of bored by it. I'm not that interested because I quite like the odd Western, but this doesn't feel like a Western. It feels like a theme park.
Yeah, it is a little bit kind of. It does have that theme park tone, doesn't it? It's like a sort of a hyper Western, I guess, like hyper real Western.
Well, it doesn't really feel like a Western. I mean, I know what Dave's saying, it is more of a theme park, but I'd say it's more... You kind of lose the Western element. You don't really get that much flavour for it. You could argue that's to the film's credit, as you just get engrossed with the story. You don't sort of just throw in a bunch of Western tropes.
You notice the background so much.
Kind of, but there is not much story, though. What
doesn't massively use its setting.
No,
not really.
I mean, it's largely like the love story. It's more like the love story and the conundrum for Doc. Really, that's largely the big driving part of the film.
That could just as easily have been like Victorian London.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it should have been, because they always say that they made it that you travel in time, not in place. He said because it's really weird time traveling and you're in like New York and then suddenly you're in medieval England.
Yeah, that would be a dimension though, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, so I get that, that's fine. But I mean, on that logic, Earth is moving anyway. Earth isn't remotely in the place it was. But okay, that's fine. But in terms of what you take from the setting from the story, then yes, I would suggest that Clara is kind of 19th century. I think that's fair enough. But there's nothing really that specific about the Western setting apart from the preponderance of guns. But to be honest, guns are not difficult to get hold of in that country anyway. So, not really. I mean, I can understand
that goes state by state, but obviously.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's the Second Amendment right. Some places are easier than others, but no. The fact is, you are allowed guns, and if you go back to this kind of era, you'd certainly be allowed guns.
Oh yeah, no doubt, yeah, definitely. The kind of more lawless times.
The point I'm trying to make is though that it would only be a plot point in a country where perhaps those things have changed over time. So you think, oh, we're definitely in a more lawless era here. Like, I don't know, 18th century England had a load of guns or something, which I don't think is true, but could be. I don't know. Whereas here, I think all I'm trying to say is it doesn't really use its setting that well.
I mean, I think part of the problem is this was like the last third of the original script, wasn't it? This is like of a 3-hour film, so it's just kind of like embellished that to a certain degree, haven't they? Where do we go from here? So we basically get like the romance. It is basically just a romance between Clara and Doc. We don't get much else. We've already met the Strickland, the sheriff.
Yeah.
Who teaches his son discipline. Is that meant to be the head, or is that meant to be the head's dad?
I think it's his granddad.
Yeah, I would say it was his granddad, isn't it? But yeah, I was like, oh, Strickland.
There is a deleted scene where you see him with I think Strickland's dad, because it cannot be the younger Strickland. That wouldn't work.
No, that would be.
I suppose it could be as a boy. No, but he'd be retired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they talked.
No, he's like, oh, this discipline. Is discipline. Remember that son? He's like, oh yeah. That's quite interesting. That's a nice nod.
He's remembered discipline, and he says,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay."
Like, I will also.
Or summit.
Or something like that.
Yeah, discipline and no butterfly ever amounts to nothing.
This is all killing time now. Doc is in love, and the rest of this film now, right up until they try to get back to the future, is the debate over whether Doc should pursue this or leave it alone, because he's clearly in love with her.
So I think they come to the point where like Doc decides, right, I need to call it a day because I'm going to travel back in time. So he tries to find a way. He ends up telling the truth. She thinks he's lying and sort of basically sort of gives him a slap in the face and calls him like, at least you could have just said you didn't love me. At least you would have been honest. Yeah. So she gets on the train next day to go somewhere. Doc gets really sad and sort of stands at the bar with one drink in his hand, which, by the way, Doc can't drink. We
find out.
Yeah.
But he'd stood there like monologuing all night.
Yeah.
Because it was how many as he had. Well, that was the first one. Very cartoonish, but kind of funny.
Yeah. I was just like, was it 24 hours this salute? Jesus Christ.
Seems to be.
Yeah. And, yeah, so Doc drinks, he passes out, and lo and behold Mad Dog's early. Because he's like, oh, well, I can't keep time, so fuck it, I'm here. So he's basically calling him out. He gets goaded by everyone else, but then decides, no, he's a fucking arsehole, if what? And then so he has a grand idea of challenging him to a fist fight. And then he just gets shot.
Yeah, there is a call back to the second film here.
Yeah.
Because when Biff is in the hot tub with two women in the alternate 1985, he's watching A Fistful of Dollars. And if you ever see A Fistful of Dollars, Bruce, I've done it again.
Bruce?
Remember when I got Bruce Forsyth and Clint Eastwood mixed up, as you would do? I did it again. Bruce.
Bruce. Oh, God bless Bruce.
God bless Bruce. He was marvellous in The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Oh dear.
So,
Anyway.
yeah, there's the same bulletproof vest plot point in that he comes out to face someone, gets shot, and that's it. And
and then so he stands over, but Marty jumps back to life and then beats him up. He basically just keeps punching him, and then and then he falls in a manure and then gets arrested for stealing for doing that robbery, and also for
stagecoach robbery.
Yeah, and also in the delete scene for shoot the sheriff as well, because that's what actually happened. But that was cut for the film, so there you go. And then it's basically sort of back they go on the train. They rob a train and they set up the DeLorean. But Clara finds out, overheard about Doc monologuing how he's heartbroken and whatnot, and decides
Monologuing again.
Yeah, and then goes, I'm gonna go and find him, and then she rides on the train, and then gets herself in danger. Dave's loving this, isn't he?
Carry on, I'm listening. You're telling such a wonderful story.
Should we go back to talking about how accents work in America?
Yeah. Let's talk about the time loads of fit women liked me. Just because I was British.
Well, basically what happens is Clara gets in trouble. Marty uses a hoverboard to give to Doc. Doc saves Clara. Marty goes back in time, and then Marty kind of lands on the railroad, and then nearly gets hit by a train, destroying the DeLorean, which is kind of convenient for him because it means he doesn't have to. Also, do trains ever stop in moments like this? Like, they've just collided with a vehicle.
Yeah, keep going.
You know what I mean? Like, are there not protocols or something like that? You know, shit! Is there, like, insurance and shit, things like that? And the damage to the train? Anyway. No, it's not a problem, Chris. Don't worry about it. These things happen and we're all pretty cool about it. Anyway, so everything's all. He goes to find Elizabeth Shue, who has basically just been forgotten about the entire franchise. And,
she's basically been on like a little outside sofa.
Yeah,
clearly
for 3 films or whatever it is.
she pulls out like a sheet that says "You're fired" that fades away because that's after Needles pops up after we.
It was after the whole Needles thing.
Yeah, of like, oh yeah, we're supposed to know you, but we really don't. And then challenge him to a game of chicken, and then he finally learns his lesson. And rather than not race him, he decided to at high speed reverse. Like he could have just like.
He could have flipped that car as well, the way he turned to go backwards.
I mean, he could have just like sort of like nudged to go forward just a little bit and just let him go off. It wouldn't have made any difference. But he could have like, I thought, okay, that's still kind of reckless, Marty. You kind of like, you could have reversed into something or someone.
That could have gone badly wrong.
Yeah, it could have done. But but the point being, he was going to have a car crash. I'm not sure how that car crash would have impacted everything else, because he didn't seem to have any injuries in the future when he went there. So it wasn't like.
Well, he couldn't play the guitar, could he, when he had the crash?
Was that it?
No.
It was something to do with his hand. He messed his hand up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So obviously, if he reversed, the worst thing is he might have messed his arsehole up, and that would have been like his gay porn career finished.
All right, so Marty's going to be a rock star. Okay, fine enough.
That's the point. Well, we don't know that he's going to be a rock star. We know that it's that he definitely won't be if he has that accident.
Yeah.
I mean, the film ends with, the future's now for you to make what you can of it.
And I like that message. Doc comes back after making another time machine. God knows why or how.
Yeah, I know. Not like you've stayed there and settled with the one you love, and time travel's fairly dangerous.
But it's like, oh, what the heck? Just like him reading that note that he was adamant not to read. It's like, no, I'll build up a time machine.
Clearly.
How? How? Given how everything that it took to build that machine relied on stuff you need from the future. I don't.
It's always easier the second time, probably, or something.
And wouldn't you choose something else rather than a fucking train?
A big steam train.
I don't know.
It just seems, yeah. Anyway, yeah, and we meet Jules and Vern.
Yeah. What have they got that idea from?
And is it Vern who's like the really creepy looking because he comes on the
The
screen?
one that points at his knob.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like pointing that way. It's like.
Yeah, he points at his knob.
Because as soon as he comes on, he has this kind of like menacing sort of like look on his face to say, "I'm going to fuck up this production with something."
Yeah.
I tried to have a look to see if the kids were famous, if they appeared in anything later on, and not really. I don't think either of them. I didn't recognise them, unfortunately. Because I was trying to look for fun facts, and I thought, oh, so and so, one of these actors went on to become so and so in this film, but not really.
I don't think that kid ever worked in Hollywood again after he did that.
No, it was probably quite a young age, so fame and youth generally, don't go well together.
But what was he trying to do? I mean, the big theory is he was meant to saying he needs a toilet or something. That's the theory.
Well,
maybe. Yeah, he was like, I gotta go, but it didn't really work out.
I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, so I do like the end message, sort of like the future is whatever you make it, so make it a good one. I a lot like that. And then...
yeah, so it's a nice kind of moral, I guess, to end on.
And then, yeah, that's the end. It says the end and we're done. And that's Back to the Future. And Dave's thrilled.
I think it's wonderful how this series that ended in 1985 was so good.
And also I imagine like in 1990, my thought going to 1985 must feel so dated. Because I don't know. I'm trying to think 5 years back. I don't see if it as being that dated, but
no.
But
that's when you're a kid. When he finally gets back to 1985. As a kid, you're like, yeah, but that's ages ago.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Something about like the whole vibe of the 80s just seemed vastly different. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Maybe it's just you.
Maybe it's just me.
Maybe
it's just you.
And yeah, that's Back to the Future 3. Dave's.
I think it's fair to say I've never loved Quentin Tarantino more.
Well, I'm ready to start talking about some Richard Curtis.
Really?
Yes,
All right.
that's going to be the next thing we record, isn't it? Or...
The Blackadder, a 3-hour commentary of season 1.
Oh my god, that would be immense.
No, it wouldn't.
Season 1 is okay, but like season 2, 3, when it all kind of picks up.
But yeah, it'd be the smell of pursuit. We could do all 12 hours if you want.
I mean,
We'll be doing Red Dwarf eventually.
it was only
I'm
better
not
when
doing all of Red Dwarf. They've done
No, not all of them, just some of them.
just back and forth.
I guess we could be bought for that. Whole seasons. We could do marathon podcasts, but that would cost a lot of money.
Yeah, we'd have to do like
and
finish
time.
drives, like now playing.
Chris, are you announcing the 2017? Do you expect us to talk Christmas Day commentary?
Oh, are we announcing it, or should we leave it a surprise?
Drum roll, please.
So it's got us somewhat close.
Okay.
What Richard Curtis product is set at Christmas?
About Time, which is no, forget me.
I ain't watching that. I fucking sob. That's
Oh, that's
embarrassing.
very sad. That's sad film. Have a tissue ready. No, our 2017
I always have a
do
tissue
Talk
ready.
Christmas special
Never know.
movie.
No, I mean, to be honest, Dave, I did well up a little bit about Time, even though I
No, me too.
No,
I will add, I think it's actually a fucking crap movie.
Oh, I think it's a crap film.
I think it's generally really bad. I think it's really ill thought out, but that's me. And the whole idea of making me well up, I thought, no, I did the emotional work in that. You just got me thinking about what would be like, about my dad, and now no, fuck you. That's lazy.
No, it is, but the emotion was genuine. The emotion was genuine in the film. I'd be fairly confident Richard Curtis had lost his father at the point where he wrote that.
Probably. But
the film's
crap. Yes.
But part of the reason the film's... What made me laugh about the film is, right, when I think I said this on a podcast with James Murphy a while back, I said that when I heard there was this time travel Richard Curtis film, I remember thinking to myself, I bet it's got the laziest, most uninspired time travel method ever. And then I went in and it was stand in a dark corner and clench your fists. Yeah, fair enough, right? But the second thing about that film is Donald Gleeson, who I quite like, is the problem. He's not a leading man. He cannot lead that film at all. He's playing the surrogate Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant would have been in that film if it had been like 15 years, 20 years before. And he isn't. I'm not. You realise how light comedy is a skill. You think of it as kind of easy to do that sort of acting, and actually it's really not, because it's like Arnie. I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger's a particularly good actor at all, but you go and see Dolph Lundgren in a film and you go, actually, yeah, Arnie has something, because this guy certainly fucking doesn't. And
poor Dolph.
Dolph Lundgren's shit, Chris. Don't dress it up. He's rubbish. But anyway, you look at About Time and you think, well, Hugh Grant would have fucking crushed that, and Donald Gleeson doesn't have it.
Donald Gleeson's fine, and his character's more the problem. It's character-made choice that made me think, you know what, I think you're a dick, and I don't like you anymore, and I kept waiting for the film to address that.
He made the choice to repeatedly have sex with Rachel McAdams. Do you disagree with this stance?
Actually, no, I think there's a point in the film where he meets Rachel McAdams and then realise, oh no, I have to do something, and then go back in time and he finds out he missed his opportunity and he goes off with another fella. Now, typically speaking, in movie...
Sorry? He goes off with another fella?
She goes off with another fella, right? You know that part, like, sort of... between, like, in the first third of the film, almost, like... And... He then makes the decision of, like, right, I'm going to use time travel, go back, break them up. Not break them up, but, like, sort of go back on myself to make sure she doesn't meet it, and then laugh at him and call him a prick, even though the movie has not justified why he's a prick. He seemed like a really nice, sort of genuine nice guy, and typically movie terms, yes, you normally expect him to be a prick, but that just did not sit right with me, and I just thought, no, I do not like you. You are a selfish prick, and you are playing God with time travel to suit your needs. And I was waiting for the film to kind of realise he was never meant to be with her, and that would have rectified the film for me, but it didn't.
I'll tell you what, this complete fucking slaughtering of this film is making me feel damn Christmassy.
Oh, by the way, Christmas films, Love Actually. There you are.
My God, it's almost like we sat down and crafted that message, Chris.
Well, we have to fill the show with something, because
we're at about an hour and a half.
I bet in mind we spent at least good 20 minutes talking about not the film.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to have to cut some of that because I kind of ended up insulting Americans. Right, anyway, so I don't know, talk some more about that, Chris.
No.
All right, well, last year we did It's a Wonderful Life. I would go as far as to say we kind of all chose that, but if push comes to shove and we take turns, I chose it because I'm probably the one that said, what about? This is Chris's choice because he's a big soppy boy.
Yes.
And he just...
I don't know, it was just like, I just seemed like when we were thinking about Christmas commentaries, like what would be good to do, I thought there'll be like plenty to talk about with this one, so I thought, yeah, well, this be... And plus it's not like...
What worries me is that we did a Police Academy commentary last week, and Chris completely lost the power of speech when there were some tits on screen. And Laura Linney is topless in this film. What's going to happen?
Hopefully I won't be speechless. Yeah, so... yeah, it's happened again. I'm just thinking about it. So
just thinking about boobs now. We don't even have to show you anymore.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was a good idea because I mean, enough people watch it, and plus it's not as sacred enough that people fit. Well, yeah, It's One of Life is sacred, but it feels good. It feels good enough we can take it feels good enough we can take the piss out of it. And enough people like it for what it is, so it's...
You're fond of breasts.
It's got Liam Neeson in it.
Let us know by emailing.
Yes.
Expect us to talk at gmail.com.
And it's got Liam Neeson, as Becca rightly says.
Who apparently has a massive penis.
Apparently.
Apparently it's like one of those 2-litre Evian bottles.
Right.
Which is just ludicrous. That cannot be any fun.
Does that mean it's got quite a small pointy end?
It means it's ridged all the way down the side of the bottle and you have to unscrew it before you start. That was famous long before Hollywood Babylon started going on about it.
Yeah, well, it's legendary, isn't it?
Oh dear. Maybe we could do a crossover at some point.
What? A crossover with what?
Hollywood Babylon.
What, you want...
Yeah, sorry.
That's never going to happen.
I'll just tweet Kevin right now, and he'll be up for it.
Yeah, you'll make Kev. I'm sure he won't mind.
We talk about penises sometimes. Can we join your show?
We have English accents, don't you know? You'll be all impressed by.
Your sexy English accent.
Blimey governor, and they'll cream themselves because we're British.
Blimey governor.
Oh, blimey governor. Get it right.
Yeah, there is an element though when you go to the States and you kind of hear yourself with your English accent, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh my god, I'm Hugh Grant. All of a sudden you start turning into like, oh gosh, oh yes, see me, yeah, you start like talking like a royal.
I've got more polite as I get older anyway, and it's going to be ludicrous if I ever make it to my pension years. I'm just going to be ludicrously polite because it's happening at quite an accelerated pace. Yeah. But you go to America and it's even worse. Everywhere you go, it's delighted to meet you, dear boy.
So basically, this podcast, you let out all the filth. It's essentially what it is.
I honestly don't think I think this podcast is like exactly that. I think it's just a version of me. It's a character, if anything, that I can let all this stuff out, because this is not what I'm like at all. I used to work down. I used to work down one wing of this building, but I was slightly too far down the wing of the building. The reason I say that is, I had to walk far enough down it that I ran out of ways to say hello. Because I didn't want to be like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places, where he's just going morning, 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 right as he walks in, morning. So you'll say hi, morning, how you doing? Yeah, hi, hello, right? But of course, I start running out of ways to say that, and I'm still a good few yards from my desk. So you're getting very close to like top of the morning to you, right? That's the problem with being so polite.
Don't put everyone into it.
I know I have trouble. Like I never realise how long to leave the door open for people.
Yeah, this is like.
Don't you feel terrible when they break into a run? You get
I know. You go. Oh, I should have done this. Really, should have.
To be fair, they were 5 streets away when I first.
A lot of these problems can be found on the Very British Problems Twitter page and the Very British Problems book.
If you've got problems with just being too damn awesome, write to us and expect us to gmail.com. Becca, have you got any facts about this film?
I do.
So we can pad this show out, yeah.
Yes. Fun fact number 1: Thomas F. Wilson does all his own horse riding stunts in this film, which is quite interesting. Right. Fun fact number 2, as we divulged earlier, the character Seamus McFly was originally written for Crispin Glover, so not appearing in this film.
Hang on a minute. Can I just say it slow? We're struggling to get a decent running time out of this. So just say it like you've been slightly sedated.
Okay. Just I'm conscious of Chris needing to go to bed because of his epic 12-hour shift.
You've been thinking about Chris in bed.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, you did.
Well, actually, secretly I am, but you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, fun fact number 2.
Banana and winking at him.
Was that like eating noises I could hear before?
Yeah, I played some of our traders back yesterday or today when I went to post them, and I think one of them you mentioned about Apollo eating a banana and just staring at Rocky.
Nom.
And then we go on to like Adrian touching herself and eating a flake. So that was rather in my head already.
So tell us more facts, Becca.
Anyway. Fun fact number 3: the drive-in cinema, which was built in Monument Valley, was made especially for the film and was torn down shortly after production ended. Sadly, no films were ever screened there. That's quite sad.
I mean, to be fair, normally when things are built for films, they get torn down when the film's finished. So
generally that's what happens, but sometimes things do get left there, which is quite interesting. And then, tourists and film fans can come along and visit it. There's a
see LA Noire for historically inaccurate details.
This is it. Fun fact number 4: this is the first Back to the Future film where Doc and Marty swap catchphrases. So when they're discussing the tombstones, Doc says, "This is heavy."
What you were going to suggest they swapped then?
They swapped. Swapped bodies, swapped faces.
No wonder Ted can't stay on his chair having to watch that shit go on.
That's it. So when they discover the tombstones,
Marty
goes, "Great Scott," and Doc goes, "Yeah, this is heavy."
Yeah, I know it's heavy, yeah.
Which is good fun. I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And final fun fact number 5: John Wayne made 5 films in Monument Valley, which is in the Navajo Nation, during his lifetime. Stagecoach in 1939, Fort Apache in 1948, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon in 1949, Rio Grande in 1950, and The Searchers in 1956. In 2008, the AFI voted The Searchers the greatest Western of all time.
Yeah, I just you might have heard me typing there, the reason being that I wanted to know, because there's a film that John Wayne made in the 50s that virtually everyone involved with died of cancer.
Oh dear.
Because they did like nuclear testing there and stuff.
Yeah, it's the killer film, really, isn't it?
It's The Conqueror. Dick Powell film. It was, let me just look at cancer control. St. George, Utah. 137 miles downwind of the United States government's Nevada National Security
Excuse me,
site.
sorry.
1953, 11 above-ground nuclear weapons tests occurred at the site as part of, just it goes on, tells you about that. Basically, the director died of cancer. Pedro Armendariz was in that film and died of cancer. So that's from Russia with Love's Kerim Bey. Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched died. John Wayne died. Susan Howard all died of cancer in the 70s. John Hoyt died of lung cancer in 91. Obviously, there was wide use of tobacco around then. But basically, it's just disproportionately... it's disproportionately a film that he was on killed virtually everyone that was involved in it.
Well, that sounds like a joy.
That's not really a fun fact, is it?
No, I was expanding on your fun fact to keep everyone's mood in check.
Okay.
People get too excited when you monologue at them, Becca.
Pardon?
People get too excited when you monologue at them.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So be less entertaining is my advice.
And that's our main objective at Do You Expect to Talk, to be less entertaining.
Be less entertaining. Be less lewd.
So
less
next
rude.
week we're going to commentate on, like, Alan Rickman cheating on Emma Thompson.
Unsuccessfully as well, he never really gets his end away.
Well, I don't think he does, anyway. I don't think he does.
No.
Which, on the one hand, part of me thinks, all of me thinks that's a good thing, obviously.
Yeah.
Because I am not that type of person in the slightest. But there's also a part of me that thinks, he started buying really expensive presents a bit prematurely, didn't he?
Yeah.
He could have waited until she sucked it a couple of times.
Yeah, he did, I suppose we'll talk about it, but he never really seemed sold on the whole idea anyway, so it just seems a bit like...
that key. He always seems like he's being forced into it.
Yeah. He's like, oh, what do I do?
Yeah. The story in that film that I find really, really odd is the one with Keira Knightley, because it's ridiculous miscast, because she's like 18.
Yeah, she's quite young, isn't she?
Adults, basically, after this kid. And they're all assholes. She barely speaks, so she's being admired from afar. Chiwetel Ejiofor barely has any dialogue, if any. And because Andrew Lincoln is, like, love-struck and trying to be unfriendly, he hardly says anything anyway. So you got three people with no social skills vaguely milling around each other. That's comedy, folks.
Fantastic.
But we'll get into that. I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
Yeah, it's Chris's choice, so feel free to head to the northwest of England and chin him if it's wrong.
If you're willing to travel to violently assault someone for the sake of a podcast episode.
Yeah. But, you know, in our defence, topless Laura Linney. And that bloke
in my defence, Colin Firth.
Colin Firth. Yeah. He was a bit younger there as well, wasn't he?
He was, but I think he looks tasty, however old he might be.
Tasty!
I'm trying to keep... I'm kind of keep tracked on, like, on the people Becca finds attractive.
It is the bizarrest mismatch of, like...
It's really random, isn't it?
So you got Colin Firth, Christian Bale. She's constantly made stuff about Christian Bale, like said like things about Christian Bale with the Batman.
John Boyega a couple of weeks ago. Billy Zane, if you can spot him.
Well, no, really, it's just one of those things. I don't really find him attractive, but it's just like the fact like where he has like no
Roger
hair, and apparently that's meant to be quiet.
If he wasn't happily married, obviously.
I'm breathing.
I'm breathing.
And generally not dead. But I mean, James Bond, it's got, you can fancy him until the cows come home. But they were like, I don't know, it's like if you've got no hair, apparently that's a sign that you're really virile. I never quite understood that one. But that was the whole argument behind Billy Zane anyway.
It's testosterone levels, that's all it is.
Oh, okay.
Not the only reason for balding, though, so it's a bit of a false... But balding can be caused by like excess testosterone, and normally people. But like Donald Trump has to take a drug to reduce his testosterone, and I'm sure you're not desperate to jump his bones.
No.
Controversial.
Does that drug also explain the really crap haircut?
Well, he takes something to like speed up hair growth or something like that, and by God, it looks like it could barely be contained.
It's like he's got. I still can't figure out his hair.
It's like he's lost a bet, isn't it? Yeah, I don't mind parting it from halfway down the side of my head. Yeah, why not?
Because he's proven that it's not a wig, or he's had people like rub it, and so.
It's
But
not a wig.
I just can't understand what's going on with that thing. I just don't. Well, no. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a bit weird. I think it's just somebody's just taken like a wig or a dead animal or something, and just plopped on top of his head. It's like, what the hell's going on there?
But he has the best words. So.
That's right.
Oh dear. Anyway, folks, where can we be found on the social media?
You can find me at the Pasty Kid 1976 on Twitter.
And you can find pasties at in 1976 and other years where you can find pasties and kids.
Let me just check. I'm going to see if either Dudney have a page. Hang on.
I'm sure you would be.
Yeah, at Ivor Dudney on Twitter.
All right.
Or a pasty.
There you are. You can follow me at Simtronics on Twitter. You can find this podcast at simtronics.co.uk, where you can find me and Dave talking about shit, as always. That's on Not Do You Expect Us to Talk. Yeah, we never did a Justice League episode, did we?
Yeah. Do you know why?
Because it was crap.
Because it's your podcast and you didn't fucking arrange one, you bellend.
Oh, I know that. But I didn't have the time.
I love that. I said, do you know why?
That
And you're like waiting for me to drop
No.
some insights. The way the Cinematronics podcast works is you arrange it and I say yes.
I say, hey Dave, how about you do this? You won't, yeah.
That's it. I can't arrange it. It's your podcast.
I know. I didn't have time. We just realised, probably too late now, isn't it? But
I actually do think so now. I think it's probably like, let's not bother.
like, yeah,
But
who
still,
cares?
There'll be a summer review episode in next September
Well, we review films from November.
where we'll review films from March through the end of August, it seems to be.
Yeah.
That's becoming the
Ever-increasing.
format.
Ever-increasing.
That is getting tougher each time, actually. Because they are cramming more and more in.
God, Black Panther's in February, isn't it?
Oh god, it's going to be like the year of Marvel, isn't
Yeah,
it? No.
Now, that's not necessarily a problem, but yeah.
No, it's not a good thing, but just...
Well, it's not
No.
It's not a bad thing either. Why is
No.
it a bad thing? They've got.
it's not a bad thing, for sure.
They've got to get that in before Infinity War.
I think, yeah.
But yeah, it's the fact that if you cover a summer season, where do you start? We started with Logan last year, or this year rather. But it was around the same week as John Wick 2, and we didn't put that in, and it was just a judgment call on what represents a summer film.
Sure.
Well, even though Logan was very different, it's still kind of the X-Men franchise, so we counted it.
Sure.
But where does that leave you where there's January films? Where does it leave you where there's Star Wars films in December and stuff? But yeah, the format generally is like start of March right up until film recording. So yeah, but it's definitely becoming more each year. The summer season, or certainly
busier.
season, is bigger now. It runs for longer, and then there's like a reprise in the autumn and winter now. Anyway,
Yeah, I think that's good. Like a lot of films used to have, like, it was more like for the winter season, like Christmas season, wasn't it, as well?
yeah.
And then obviously the summer market, and then 2019 Bond. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait for that.
Well, I love Bond, but well, we talked about it before. I think Eon have shit the bed now. I think they've had it. 4 years.
Yeah, it'll be Craig's last hurrah,
farcical.
but we'll see how it goes.
I love Daniel Craig, and I'd love him to have made more of them. But I'm at the point now where it's like, if you're going to wait that long, just fucking reboot with someone new.
Yeah. Rather
'Cause it's
than
gonna
like
be
to wait and then...
51 anyway. It just puts so much pressure on it, particularly as Spectre wasn't that amazing.
No.
So
It's
we
literally
wait
pressure to
4
be like
years,
Daniel
and what
Craig's
if this
best
is
ever.
no good? We'll have to wait for another 3 years again, at least. It's just, the problem it's going to have, though, is it's pretty much up against Wonder Woman. And they're late starting pre-production. So it's up against Wonder Woman, and then there's a Star Wars. Episode 9's
It'll be
about...
the Star Wars, yeah. Star Wars and
Episode
Wonder Woman.
9's about 3 or 4 weeks later. So Yeah,
So
I'll get excited nearer the time, and they don't seem to make several bad ones in a row, Eon. So maybe they'll have learned something. But I do think that 4 years. I don't think it bodes well. It's 4 years. It's Purvis and Wade, and 2 years into the process, that 4 years, she said, "Oh, we've got our Daniel. That's the main thing, and we're starting to look at the script." And it's like, yeah, I think you've got that wrong way round.
Yeah, you need to kind of go the other way around, really. So
Bloody script right first.
there's a theory going that was comparing Daniel Craig's films to Roger Moore films. So in theory, according to that theory, we should have the Daniel Craig equivalent of For Your Eyes Only. Yeah, exactly.
I'll be happy with that. If it was as good as For Your Eyes Only, I would take that now.
Yeah, definitely. So let's hope that theory comes true.
What, so like an end on a hard kind of Casino Royale? No.
Well, Roger always ended hard. The idea that it'll be a serious and slightly more action-light one. But again, the thing I read that, and I don't know how true it is, but I read that there was talk of going like more action-light because of his age. And I think, well, I'm fine with more action-light because I couldn't give a shit about action anyway. But
I think because he's been injured so often on his during his films, hasn't he?
If you're going action-light because of his age and health, then he's not fit to play the role and replace him.
Yeah, it's kind of...
And this is I'm speaking as someone who wants him back, but he's either up to it or he isn't.
No, I think it's because he's been injured so much during the course of the films that he's done so far, that maybe they're kind of trying to scale that back a little bit, or at least kind of not make the action scene so ambitious. But it's the same. It's like if you're up for it physically or you're not. So make your mind up, please.
That's the point. It's like they do anything to indulge this man now. If he said, "I'll come back in 2021," they'd have said, "All right."
No, well, he's co-producer now, isn't he? Pretty much. So.
Well, that was to kiss his ass as well. Let's give him a producer credit. I love Daniel Craig. He's been an absolutely terrific Bond, and I've got no evidence he's absolutely demanding this on pain of death.
No.
But the tail has been wagging the dog all the way through now. And it needs to go to a stronger studio who would look at a Daniel Craig and say, "You're a hired hand." Not two people who are like, "Whatever you want, Daniel."
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got big shake-ups between Disney and Fox, haven't we? Coming next year, so...
I mean, chances are they probably offered Daniel before he even asked it. They probably were like, "Dan, do you want a producer credit?" Yeah, all right.
Yeah, why not?
I'd believe that.
For an extra 20 million or something.
Any one of those things I'm kind of all right with in isolation. But it's 4 years, and like I said to you before...
It's a long time.
He sat at an interview last year and said everyone's tired. I just think that's the stupidest fucking excuse I've ever heard for anything.
Yeah.
It's just really fucking dumb and just not... You have just said, without meaning to, none of us are up to it anymore. That's what you've just said.
No, it's not the best thing to say, is it, really?
We're not up to it. We're too old, and we need, like, more hands at the pump. We need more pumping.
More pumping, people. You heard it here first.
I can't believe Becca's not even taking that bait.
Yeah, no, I tried, didn't I? I tried. If you'd like more pumping, write to us at gmail.com.
Yeah. We just have to decide what level of pumping is required.
Yeah, I just have to make sure that...
I believe you not said it, Becca. That's like the one thing...
Did either of you hear the smorgasbord I was on last week?
No.
No, not yet, sorry.
You'd have to apologise. You're not forced to listen to my fucking stuff.
No, I do try to listen to output that isn't Do Spectres Talk.
The news article was about, like, a fucking trackable cock ring.
Oh, ooh.
And it was all about, like, measuring your speed and stuff.
Oh, God, what?
It's a really fucking funny story.
Oh, dear. No, I have to look at that somehow.
It was one of those that you
I'd rather listen to it rather than Google it.
What insecure man in the fucking world would want to wear one of those?
Nobody.
When you finish bashing away and it goes, "By the way, you shit."
Because you've reached you out of 10. Well, that was a 3 out of 10. But no, Chris, I was about to quote it, but then you got there first, and I was like, we just have to decide how much pumping is needed. But you beat me to it.
I'm always such a cunning linguist, aren't I?
You are a cunning linguist.
Isn't it Samantha Bond's birthday or something?
Yesterday or today?
Oh no, 27th of November.
It was Judy Dench's birthday the other day.
Yeah, she's 174, isn't she?
And she celebrated by having a Colin the Caterpillar cake from Marks and Spencer's, like the rest of us.
What do you mean, like the rest of us? I've never bought a cake. I've never bought a Colin the Caterpillar cake. I've never heard of Colin the Caterpillar. And therefore I am not familiar with the concept of a Colin the Caterpillar cake. I can't even pronounce the fucking words.
The end bit's the best bit. It's just a big slab of chocolate.
I cannot
It's a favourite at middle-class children's parties the world over.
Middle class? Well, that'll explain it.
Yes.
You're talking to scummy, Becca.
No, I think everyone was
I
swinging
could
away.
barely
Like,
I
it's a
could
very
barely
normal thing
get
to do.
polite society to talk to me, let alone buy me cakes from M&S.
Oh. That cakes
Still.
from S&M.
I'm hoping I can blast in with my accent and like win a few of them over.
So Becca, where will we find you on social media if we start with?
She'll be at delighted to meet you, dear boy.
Hello. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I am at _view movies. But you can follow us at Expect Us to Talk on Facebook.com/Expect Us to Talk on YouTube. Just search for Do You Expect Us to Talk? And you can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher.
You might as well just call the podcast Do You Expect Us to Tangent.
Yeah, we do offshoot on a tangent.
I don't think we're too bad generally. When we started the show, we had a tendency to do that a lot. Tonight,
one off and off and off.
the honest point is, I don't think we're that bothered about the film.
No.
That's the bottom line, and it's
You
really
can tell.
sad because it's part of the same series. It's a light
If
film.
we
There's
feel
not a
a
lot
bit,
in
we
it.
will stay pretty much on topic. But if we don't like it, or if we're not that bothered by it, we will kind of, the further off topic we go, that's a bigger indication of how little we care about it. Well, not how little we care about it, but how little interest we had in it and we invested in it, unfortunately.
I love the
think that's
fact
funny.
you corrected yourself there. You said how little we care about it, and you went, "Oh no," because you thought that sounded rude, and then came out with how little
How
we're
little time we
interested in
invested in
it, which
it.
isn't
Something
any
that's
fucking
harsh.
different. It's the same thing.
We care enough to watch it, so, you know.
I think my original memory of it, of like watching it and not actually remembering much else, kind of summed it up really pretty well. So
Okay, so we're done with that series. That kind of flew by. So it means Bond
3
commentary.
films.
It means
Three
Bond
films, it was
commentary.
fairly short but
We
sweet.
did it deliberately. We tried to aim it to finish so that we'd have a Bond commentary at number 100. Next time it's our 100th episode, folks.
And it's my choice, isn't it?
Okay, Chris. See us out.
Do You Expect Us to Talk? We'll return with From Russia with Love.